The legend of Blaze. Whirlwinds of dust spiraled across the parched plains, mirroring the untamed spirit within Blaze. He was a creature painted in the fiery hues of sunset. A crimson mane flowed down a back the color of sun-baked earth, complemented by cream-colored socks and eyes like liquid gold, perpetually alert. He moved with the swiftness of a gale, a living ember against the harsh landscape. The ground vibrated under his powerful stride as he led his small band of Mustangs, a vibrant display of raw strength and freedom in constant motion. Blaze wasn't merely a horse. He was a legend whispered in hushed tones around flickering campfires, a symbol of indomitable will. Ranchers regarded him with a blend of admiration and frustration. A valuable stallion, he nevertheless scorned domestication. Hank, the hammer, Harrison expectorated a stream of tobacco juice. "That infernal horse," he grumbled, his face flushed crimson. He tightened his grip on the reins of Bruiser, his own stocky quarter horse, lathered in sweat. "Thinks he's too high and mighty for saddle." The group of cowboys surrounding him, seasoned by years of relentless sun, echoed his sentiment. They had all witnessed Blaze's uncanny knack for ejecting anyone audacious enough to attempt to ride him. Some claimed he possessed a sixth sense, anticipating every maneuver, every imbalance. Others murmured of a curse, of protection by the plains' ancient spirits. "Remember Jedediah's mishap," someone muttered, recalling a cowboy who'd suffered a shattered collarbone and a concussion after his encounter with Blaze. Hank snorted derisively. Jedediah was all show, no substance. "This ain't about looking pretty, it's about dominating that beast." He nudged Bruiser onward, his gaze fixed on the distant herd. Today, the tale of Blaze meets its end. The pursuit was a frenzy of thundering hooves and billowing grit. Sensing the danger, Blaze peeled away from his herd, leading Hank and his men on a perilous chase through ravines and over jagged rocks. He knew every contour of this terrain, every concealed hollow, every treacherous sinkhole. Eventually, weary but resolute, Hank managed to trap Blaze in a confined canyon. The stallion stood defiant, nostrils flared, muscles coiled tight as springs. The air throbbed with anticipation. "All right, you magnificent devil," Hank declared, dismounting and cautiously approaching Blaze, a stout rope in hand. "Let's see your mettle up close." Blaze watched him intently, his golden gaze burning with challenge. He struck the ground, sending a spray of dirt and pebbles toward Hank. The ensuing confrontation was fierce. Hank, propelled by rage and an unbending refusal to surrender, managed to lasso Blaze's neck. The stallion erupted, rearing, lashing out with a vigor that shook the very earth. Hank clung on, knuckles bone white, face strained with effort. He managed to drag Blaze from the canyon toward a makeshift corral, where a sturdy breaking pen awaited. After a prolonged struggle, the cowboys finally forced Blaze into the enclosure. News of Blaze's capture raced through the nearby town. The townspeople flocked to the corral fence, a diverse crowd of farmers, merchants, and inquisitive children, all eager to witness the spectacle. "Think Harrison's finally subdued him?" Mrs. Gable, the baker's spouse, inquired, fanning herself with her apron. "He's pinned him, that's certain," replied Old Man Hemlock, a weathered veteran familiar with wild horses. "But breaking him, that's a different matter entirely. That horse is pure hellfire." Inside the pen, Hank was already preparing. He secured the cinch on a heavy saddle, his movements brusque and hurried. He scaled the fence, a triumphant smirk etched on his face. "Time for a ride, Blaze," he bellowed, dropping onto the stallion's back. Blaze detonated. He bucked with a force that defied the laws of physics, his body a vortex of untamed energy. Hank, despite his brawn and determination, was flung skyward like a discarded doll. He crashed down hard, the wind stolen from his lungs, his body bruised. The crowd gasped. Some applauded, others muttered in disbelief. Blaze, rid of his rider, thundered around the pen, his eyes gleaming with victory. Hank, spitting dust and muttering curses, slowly pushed himself to his feet. He glared at Blaze, his eyes a mix of fury and grudging admiration. "I'll be back," he vowed, his voice raspy. "I'll break you yet." But as he hobbled away, a kernel of uncertainty began to take root in his thoughts. Perhaps, just perhaps, the legend of Blaze was more than a mere tale. Perhaps it was a testament to an unbreakable spirit. A new beginning. Gravel grated beneath the cab's tires, the sound unnaturally loud against the countryside stillness. Lily Mae gripped her time-worn suitcase, its faded floral print a jarring note against the sere landscape unfolding before her. Distant dust devils, capricious and free, mocked her unease. This was it, ground zero for a fresh start. The taxi shuddered to a halt before a dilapidated farmhouse, its flaking paint resembling scales shedding from sun-scorched skin, the porch slumping under years of neglect. It bore no resemblance to the vibrant images her mother had cherished, photographs taken when the farm pulsed with life. The driver released the trunk, and Lily wrestled out her luggage. The crisp bill she used to pay him felt foreign, almost offensive, in her shaking hand. As the taxi vanished, a gaunt figure materialized from the dimness of the barn. Tall and sinewy, his face was a roadmap of weather and hardship. Grandpa Joe. No smile, no embrace, just a curt nod. "Lily Mae," he croaked, his voice raspy as a dry creek bed. "Get your things inside." A musty odor permeated the house, a blend of damp earth and something vaguely feral. Lily followed her grandfather into the shadowy kitchen, its linoleum cracked and bleached. A single bulb dangled overhead, painting grotesque caricatures on the walls. Upstairs, Grandpa Joe gestured toward a steep, narrow staircase. "Unpack. Supper's at 6. He vanished back into the daylight, leaving Lily swallowed by the oppressive quiet. Her room was a cell of modest dimensions, furnished with a narrow bed beneath a patchwork coverlet, a precarious dresser, and a lone window framing the fields. Bleak but hers. She unpacked deliberately, arranging her few possessions in the drawers. A snapshot of her mother, radiant and unburdened, adorned the dresser. Lily traced the smiling face, a painful knot tightening in her throat. Later, she ventured outside. The farm was even more derelict than she'd anticipated. Fences leaned like tired men, gates skewed on their hinges, and weeds strangled the remnants of a vegetable garden. The air thrummed with a relentless insect chorus, a grating, insistent drone. In the distance, beside a crumbling corral, she spotted him, a Mustang of striking beauty, his coat the shade of polished bronze. He stood solitary, head erect, his muscles shimmering beneath his smooth coat. He was magnificent. Lily edged closer, drawn by an unseen current. Her grandfather's words echoed in her memory. "That horse is trouble, wild as the wind," sent Hank flying across the pasture. Yet, she didn't see a dangerous animal. She saw a raw strength, untamed spirit, a creature defying subjugation. He pawed at the ground, his obsidian eyes alight with defiance. He snorted, a frosty plume billowing from his nostrils. Lily halted, her pulse throbbing. She knew better than to approach. Grandpa Joe had warned her. An irresistible force compelled her forward. She felt an inexplicable resonance with this wild horse, a connection beyond words. Another step, then another. The Mustang watched, his gaze unwavering, intense. She extended her hand slowly, cautiously, a silent offering of goodwill. He remained motionless. He simply stood there, regal and untamed, sovereign of his desolate domain. The setting sun cast elongated shadows across the land, painting the heavens in fiery hues of amber and violet. Lily held her breath, expectant, hopeful. This new chapter was daunting, and yet, as she met the gaze of the wild Mustang, a spark of possibility flickered within her. Perhaps she wasn't quite as adrift as she feared. Drawn together, brown corn stalks, a brittle army against the horizon, murmured secrets to the breeze as Lily picked her way through the weedy expanse. No longer a field, really, more a monument to vanished harvests. Grandpa Joe hadn't bothered salvaging what little remained, his apathy a palpable weight in the air. She nudged a parched clump of earth, sending up miniature dust clouds, like tiny bursts of regret. The heavy air, thick with the must of decay, was a far cry from the bracing mountain air of her past life. A life she'd once yearned to leave, now found herself missing. There, decline was masked by meticulously kept lawns and artfully arranged gardens. Here it was stark, unvarnished, unavoidable. A flash of sorrel drew her attention, Blaze. Further off today, near the crumbling stone boundary separating Grandpa Joe's neglected land from the long-abandoned Miller farm. Restless energy thrummed through him as he tested the limits of his tether. The rope, hefty as a ship's hawser, still held. Yet coiled tension radiated from his powerful frame, a stark defiance that stole Lily's breath. More than confined, he was a sovereign deposed, plotting his reclamation. She felt a pull, almost magnetic, not mere pity, but something akin to recognition. Two souls, both wrenched from familiar ground, struggling for purchase in alien terrain. Ignoring the prickle of warning that skittered up her spine, she started toward him. The ground, treacherous with gopher holes and hidden stones, demanded her full attention. Each footfall, a deliberate act of rebellion against the oppressive silence and the unspoken cautions that permeated the place. She saw the ripple of muscles beneath Blaze's burnished coat as he challenged the rope, head held high, nostrils wide. He struck the ground, sending a puff of earth skyward. Magnificent, even shackled. Perhaps especially so. Lily May, Grandpa Joe's voice, a rasping blade, cut through the quiet. She glanced back to see him silhouetted against the fading light on the porch, his figure diminished, almost frail. "Stay clear of that beast," he ordered, the wind carrying his words. "He's dangerous, I warned you." She offered no response, her gaze fixed on Blaze. Intelligence blazed in the animal's dark eyes, a knowing that bridged the chasm between human and animal. Lily May, louder this time, edged with irritation. "Did you hear me? Get back here." She took another step towards the crumbling wall. Tension thick in the air. The dipping sun stretched the ordinary farmscape into grotesque shapes. Blaze snorted, a low rumble that resonated beneath her feet. He tossed his head, his mane a fiery waterfall. He was waiting. "That horse ain't no tame thing, girl." Grandpa Joe's voice cracked with frustration. "He'll kill you given half a chance." Near tore Hank's arm clean off. Lily knew she should retreat. She should obey. Yet something held her fast, an insistent force propelling her forward. Weary of compliance, weary of fear, weary of his silence. Reaching the boundary, she placed her hand on the rough, cold stone. The space between them shrank. She could feel the radiating heat of his body, inhale the wild, earthy scent of him. He stood perfectly still, his eyes unwavering. A gauntlet thrown down, a silent challenge. And Lily, for the first time in what felt like forever, felt a flicker, a spark of possibility ignite within. Unsure of what lay ahead, she knew with unwavering certainty. This was only the genesis. Gifts of kindness. The next morning dawned crisp, painting the dew-kissed fields in hues of gold and rose. Lily May, armed with a woven basket brimming with shiny red apples and bright orange carrots, tiptoed out of the farmhouse before anyone else stirred. She moved with the stealth of a field mouse, her bare feet silent on the cool grass. A nervous flutter tickled her stomach. She hoped her grandfather wouldn't discover her little mission. The paddock fence loomed ahead, a barrier between her and the restless spirit within. Blaze was exactly where she'd left him, a dark silhouette against the rising sun. He pawed the ground, sending up a small cloud of dust, his breath misting in the chilly air. Even from this distance, Lily could feel the raw power radiating from him. Taking a deep breath, Lily approached the fence, carefully selecting a spot near the gate where the ground was relatively flat. She placed 3 apples in a neat row, their sweet scent carried on the gentle breeze. Next to them, she arranged a cluster of carrots, their feathery green tops swaying slightly. It looked like a small, colorful offering. Her heart hammered in her chest as she backed away, retreating to the far corner of the paddock. She perched on an overturned bucket, her gaze fixed on Blaze. The morning air was alive with the chirping of crickets and the distant crowing of a rooster, but all Lily could hear was the frantic rhythm of her own pulse. Blaze remained motionless, his dark eyes fixed on her. He didn't seem to notice the treats, or perhaps he was simply suspicious. Lily waited, her patience tested by the long, silent minutes. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the field. A hawk circled overhead, its sharp cry echoing in the stillness. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Blaze shifted his weight. He lowered his head, sniffing the air. His nostrils flared, testing the unfamiliar scents. Lily held her breath, afraid to make even the slightest movement. Slowly, cautiously, he took a step towards the apples. Then another. He paused again, glancing in Lily's direction, as if seeking permission. His eyes, usually so wild and untamed, seemed to hold a flicker of curiosity. Lily remained still, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She offered him a small, encouraging smile, though she doubted he could see it from that distance. With a final, hesitant step, Blaze reached the apples. He nudged one with his nose, then picked it up in his teeth. He chewed slowly, deliberately, his eyes still fixed on Lily. She could almost feel him evaluating her, trying to determine her intentions. He finished the apple and moved on to the carrots, crunching them with surprising delicacy. The sound echoed in the quiet morning air. Lily watched, mesmerized, as he devoured the offering. A sense of relief washed over her, mingled with a growing feeling of hope. When the last carrot was gone, Blaze lifted his head and looked directly at Lily. For a long moment, their eyes met. She saw something in his gaze, something beyond defiance and distrust. Perhaps it was a glimmer of understanding, or maybe even a hint of gratitude. He snorted softly, a puff of air escaping his nostrils, and then turned and trotted away, disappearing into the far corner of the paddock. Lily stayed on the bucket for a long time, watching the spot where he had vanished. The sun warmed her face, and the morning air no longer felt so cold. She had taken a first step, offered a small gift of kindness. And Blaze, the untamed spirit, had accepted it. It wasn't much, but it was a start. A fragile bridge, built on apples and carrots, between a girl and a wild horse. A bond forms. The next morning, Lily approached Blaze's enclosure with a small woven basket. Inside, nestled amongst fresh green grass, were 2 bright red apples and a handful of orange carrots, still dusted with soil. She held the basket out, her heart thrumming a nervous rhythm against her ribs. Blaze watched her, head high, nostrils flaring, a low snort rumbling in his chest. He remained at the far end of the paddock, the morning sun glinting off his wild, untamed coat. "Good morning, Blaze," Lily said softly, her voice barely a whisper above the rustle of leaves in the nearby trees. "I brought you a little something." He didn't move. Lily took a tentative step closer, then another. She stopped halfway, extending the basket further. "These are from my garden. I picked them just for you." The air crackled with unspoken tension. The other horses grazed peacefully in their paddocks, oblivious to the silent drama unfolding. A blue jay landed on the fence post, tilting its head as if observing the standoff. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Blaze took a hesitant step forward. He stopped, his dark eyes fixed on the basket, then flicked to Lily's face. He lowered his head, sniffing the air, his velvety muzzle twitching. The scent of apple filled his nostrils. Slowly, cautiously, he reached into the basket and plucked out an apple. He crunched into it with surprising gentleness, juice dribbling down his chin. Lily held her breath, a wave of relief washing over her. He finished the apple, then nudged the basket with his nose, searching for more. Lily offered him a carrot. He took it delicately from her outstretched hand, the rough texture of his muzzle brushing against her skin. A shiver ran down her spine. He devoured the carrot in a few satisfying chomps. Emboldened, Lily took another step closer. Blaze didn't retreat. She reached out slowly, her hand outstretched, palm up. "You're a beautiful horse, Blaze," she whispered. "So strong." He remained still, watching her every move. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, the raw power contained beneath his sleek coat. With infinite care, she gently stroked his nose. His muscles tensed for a moment, then relaxed. He closed his eyes slightly, a soft sigh escaping his nostrils. The contact was electric, a tangible connection bridging the gap between them. Lily continued to stroke his nose, her touch feather-light. "It must be lonely, being so different," she murmured. "Being so special." She paused, gathering her courage. "I know what that's like." She told him about feeling out of place at school, about the kids who made fun of her drawings, about the weight of expectations she felt from her family. She spoke of her love for the sanctuary, for the quiet solitude she found amongst the animals. Blaze listened, his ears flicking back and forth. He didn't nuzzle her, didn't offer any outward sign of comfort, but he didn't pull away. He simply stood there, a silent, powerful presence, allowing her to share her heart. As she spoke, a sense of calm settled over her. The fear that had plagued her for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a fragile hope. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she thought. Maybe, in this wild, untamed creature, she had found a kindred spirit. A bond, delicate and tentative, was beginning to form, forged in shared solitude and quiet understanding. The sun climbed higher in the sky, bathing them in its warm, golden light. The storm. The wind shrieked like a tormented spirit, assaulting the farmhouse with relentless ferocity. Rain lashed down, each drop an icy pellet pummeling the earth. Jagged lightning ripped the heavens, illuminating the landscape with an eerie starkness before the darkness swallowed it whole again. Inside, Grandpa Joe huddled by the dwindling fire, his murmurings painting grim pictures of apocalypse. At the window, Lily May watched the tempest devour their land. The ancient oak near the barn pitched wildly, its boughs flailing like broken limbs. The creek, normally a placid trickle, had mutated into a churning monster, devouring its banks. Then, she glimpsed him, a section of fence, years of rot meeting the storm's brutal force, shattered with a sharp crack. Blaze, a dark shape against the deluge, his mane and tail a tangled frenzy. He stamped, radiating raw, desperate energy. A cold dread seized Lily May. He was headed for the river. Now a raging torrent, a hungry leviathan poised to claim any unwary soul. "Grandpa!" she yelled, but the storm devoured her cry. Snatching her oilskins from the hook, she ignored his unintelligible objections. "I have to reach him." Outside, the storm slammed into her, a brutal assault. She battled her way towards the paddock, the wind tearing at her and the rain blinding her. Blaze was already gone. She followed the churned mud, her heart hammering a frantic tattoo against her ribs. He stood at the river's edge, nostrils flared, body trembling violently. The water thundered past, a relentless conveyor belt of debris, splintered wood, uprooted bushes, even the carcass of a small animal. He seemed transfixed, paralyzed by fear, yet unable to break away. Lily May approached cautiously, murmuring soft reassurances. "Blaze, easy boy. Steady now." He turned his head, eyes wide with panic. Yet he didn't run. He remained rooted, a statue carved from fear against the raging backdrop. She extended a hand, offering the apple she'd instinctively grabbed from the counter. He hesitated, his gaze flicking between the perilous river and the offering. Then, slowly, cautiously, he lowered his head and took a nibble. The fruit vanished quickly, and he nudged her hand, seeking more. As he munched, Lily May reached out, her fingers gently stroking his thick, drenched coat. He flinched initially, then seemed to yield, leaning into her touch. She felt the coiled tension in his muscles gradually unraveling. "It's all right, Blaze," she breathed, her voice thick with emotion. "Just a storm. We'll get through this together." She thought of her own anxieties, the shadows hanging over the farm, over Grandpa Joe's failing health, over an uncertain future. She channeled everything into that touch, into that shared moment. He allowed her to caress his face, his neck, even the sensitive skin behind his ears. He remained restless, she could sense it, but he wasn't fleeing. He was staying. In that terrifying, tumultuous chaos, they were a tiny island of solace, bonded by fear and a mutual craving for comfort. The wind continued its banshee wail, the rain continued its relentless assault, and the river roared on. But for those precious moments, Lily Mae and Blaze stood together, weathering the tempest. Grandpa Joe remained oblivious in the house, the firelight painting shifting patterns on the window curtains. A brave rescue. Lily Mae saw him just as the sky ripped open again, another jagged tear in the bruised purple above. Blaze. He stood at the edge of the churning riverbank, a silhouette against the furious gray water. His head was low, his normally proud stance slumped with what looked like defeat. "Blaze!" she screamed, but the word was swallowed whole by the wind. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. He'd been so spooked by the storm earlier. Had he wandered off? Gotten lost in the downpour? Without a second thought, she bolted. The mud sucked at her boots, each step a struggle against the relentless current of the storm. Rain lashed her face, blinding her, but she kept her eyes fixed on Blaze's dark shape. "Blaze! Come here!" she yelled again, her voice cracking with the effort. The distance seemed to stretch, the familiar field transformed into a treacherous landscape. Each gust of wind threatened to knock her off her feet. The air tasted of wet earth and ozone, thick and heavy in her lungs. She stumbled, her knee hitting a rock hidden beneath the swirling water, a jolt of pain shooting up her leg. Ignoring it, she pushed on, driven by a primal urge to reach him. As she got closer, she could see him more clearly. His body trembled, not just from the cold, she realized, but from sheer terror. The river, swollen and angry from the unrelenting rain, roared past him, carrying debris, branches, clumps of earth, even what looked like part of a fence, in its relentless flow. "Blaze!" she shouted, finally close enough for him to hear. He lifted his head, his eyes wide and filled with a wild, desperate light. He whinnied, a high-pitched, panicked sound that tore at Lily Mae's heart. He stood frozen, his hooves planted firmly on the treacherous bank, but his body was angled away from her, towards the raging water. He was trapped, caught between fear and the pull of the current. Reaching the edge of the riverbank, Lily Mae stopped, panting. The ground here was even softer, the mud slick and unstable. The river was a churning monster, its surface boiling with white foam. "Easy, boy, easy," she said, her voice softer now, gentler. She reached out a hand towards him, her palm open and offering. "It's okay, Blaze. I'm here." He took a tentative step back, away from the water, his nostrils flaring. But he didn't come to her. He was still too scared, the roaring river a hypnotic, terrifying presence. She could see the whites of his eyes, the frantic rise and fall of his chest. "That's it, Blaze," she coaxed, her voice a soothing balm against the storm's fury. "Just a little bit closer. You can do it. I know you can." She took a step towards him, careful to keep her movements slow and deliberate, not one to startle him. Another crash of thunder echoed overhead, and Blaze flinched, his body tensing. He let out another whinny, a mournful, desperate sound. Lily Mae's heart twisted with empathy. He was more than just a horse. He was a friend, a partner. "It's all right, boy," she repeated, her voice unwavering. "The storm can't hurt you. I won't let it." She took another step, and this time, Blaze responded. He took a hesitant step towards her, his eyes still fixed on the raging water. He was trembling violently now, but he was moving. "Good boy, Blaze," Lily Mae said, her voice filled with praise. "That's it. You're doing so good. Just a little bit further." The unbreakable trust. The river writhed, a muddy serpent gnawing at the shoreline. Lily Mae, drenched and chilled, broke free from the clutching willows. There he was, Blaze, hemmed in at the river's edge. His dark eyes blazed with trapped animal fear, mirroring the storm-lashed sky. He stamped the ground in futile agitation. "Blaze!" she called, her voice swallowed by the wind's shriek. He started, ears twitching, and something kindled in his gaze, a fragile spark of hope. She plunged down the muddy slope, boots sinking, driven by an urgency that devoured the distance. He trembled, not just with cold, but with raw terror. The engorged river had severed him from his familiar haven. Lily reached for his velvet muzzle, her own hand shaking in concert with his. His hide was slick and icy. "Easy, boy," she breathed, her words misting in the frigid air. "I'm here. We'll get through this." She stroked the delicate skin, feeling his frantic pulse thrumming beneath her fingertips. "Easy now." He nudged her hand, a plea etched in the soft gesture, and her heart clenched. He was immense, powerful, yet utterly vulnerable in his distress, like a newborn. The rain intensified, needling her skin, but she stood firm, focusing her will on soothing him. "We'll take it slow, all right? We'll find a way. Together." Her gaze swept the furious current, searching for any hint of shallows, any lull in the relentless surge. Nothing. Only the unyielding, swirling brown. A daring, almost reckless, idea took root. It was fraught with peril, dependent on Blaze's unwavering trust, but it was the only possibility. Gathering her resolve, she moved closer to his flank. "Blaze," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her legs, "I need you to believe in me. Can you do that?" He shifted, muscles coiled and tight. His eyes locked with hers, questioning, searching, and for a fleeting moment, doubt flickered within her. Then, with a slow, deliberate inclination of his head, he offered his answer. It was a subtle concession, almost imperceptible, but it resonated with profound meaning. Lily reached for his back. A momentary flinch, then stillness, a rock-solid resolve. She hesitated, her hand hovering above his glistening coat. This was the precipice. This was the ultimate test. She inhaled deeply and swung herself up. No buck, no frantic flight, only a trembling steadiness. Settling onto his back, she gripped his sides with her legs, her voice a calming cadence in his ear. "Easy, boy. Easy. Walk forward." He took a hesitant step, then another, the water grasping at his hooves, an icy, insistent pull. They were adrift, no longer tethered to solid ground. The river possessed them. Lily clung to his mane, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. The current fought to drag them away, but Blaze countered with the sheer force of his muscles. Each stride was a conquest against the raging torrent. She could sense his fear, the burgeoning exhaustion, yet overriding it all, she felt his resolute faith. Leaning forward, she murmured words of encouragement. The opposite bank seemed impossibly distant, a mirage shimmering in the downpour. The rain hammered down, blurring her vision, stealing her sight. The river roared its deafening challenge, a symphony of terror. But Blaze pressed on, fueled by an indomitable spirit. At long last, after what felt like an eternity of struggle, his hooves found purchase on solid ground. They were across. They were safe. Blaze staggered onto the bank, his legs buckling beneath him. Lily slid to the ground, her own legs shaky. She threw her arms around his thick neck, burying her face in his rain-soaked mane. "You did it," she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. "You did it, Blaze. You're incredible." He stood, panting, spent, yet unbowed. And in that moment, Lily understood the true depth of their bond, a connection forged in the crucible of fear and unyielding trust. A beautiful bond. The river's roar had diminished to a distant drone, eclipsed by Blaze's ragged breathing, which resonated through Lily May like a tangible tremor of spent energy and residual fear. Her own clothes, adhering uncomfortably to her skin, were forgotten as she gripped his thick mane, unwilling to sever their fragile connection. Across the water, the townsfolk remained in stunned silence, transfixed by the sight of the once feral Mustang, a creature who'd spurned every advance, now bearing Lily May through the flood. Mrs. Gable, a woman who claimed to have witnessed everything life could offer in her 80-plus years, dabbed at her moist eyes with a kerchief, murmuring praise. Even Sheriff Brody, known for his unflappable demeanor, stood with slack-jawed awe, Lily Mae gently urged Blaze forward. "Let's go home, boy," she rasped, her voice thick with affection. Immediately, his ears perked. He ascended the muddy bank, each footfall deliberate despite his weariness. The crowd yielded before them, parting to create an avenue towards the farmhouse. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers, marveling at the impossible sight they just beheld. Intent only on Blaze's well-being, Lily Mae guided him to the barn, its familiar, time-worn timbers a welcome sight. Inside, the mingled aromas of hay and damp earth enveloped them. She slid from his back, her legs unsteady from the ordeal. "Easy now," she soothed, stroking his sweat-slicked neck. "You are magnificent." She grabbed a coarse towel and began to rub him down, focusing on his quivering flanks. Grandpa Joe was absent. Later, having settled Blaze with fresh hay and water, Lily Mae discovered her grandfather hunched by the hearth, lost in the flickering flames. He mumbled incoherently, oblivious to her arrival. "Grandpa," she ventured softly. No response. Lily Mae sighed. The worry lines etched into his face were deepened and stark in the firelight. She knew he shouldered the blame for their misfortunes, the ruined crops, the struggling farm, the near loss of Blaze. The following dawn painted the sky with strokes of resilience above a farm scarred but unbroken. The river had retreated, leaving behind its chaotic signature. Fences lay in ruin, fields were swamped, and the barn roof leaked in multiple spots. The task seemed Herculean, particularly for a young girl and an aging man. Lily Mae refused to yield. She knew where to begin. Mending fences became her first priority, Blaze a patient companion, nudging dislodged posts with his muzzle, as if encouraging her efforts. Inspired by their combined grit, neighbors began to arrive, offering support. Farmers brought tools and lumber. Mrs. Gable delivered a steaming pot of stew, and Sheriff Brody assisted in clearing debris from the fields. Working together, Lily Mae and Blaze became an emblem of hope reborn within the community. The once untamed Mustang now obediently hauled fallen limbs, his powerful frame straining. Lily Mae, no longer just a child, took charge, her voice clear and decisive as she orchestrated the repairs. Slowly, meticulously, they resurrected the farm. Fences rose again, fields were drained, and the barn roof gained makeshift patches. The damaged crops, though diminished, promised a small but viable harvest. As days bled into weeks, a new rhythm settled over the land. Lily Mae and Blaze were inseparable. They labored side by side during the day, their connection deepening with each task accomplished. Evenings were for unrestrained joy, their laughter echoing through the valley as they ran free in the fields. Blaze, his wildness tamed by devotion, would nuzzle Lily Mae affectionately, a gentle loyalty shining in his eyes. One twilight, as the sun bled crimson and gold across the horizon, Grandpa Joe emerged from the farmhouse. He shuffled towards Lily Mae and Blaze, his gait unsteady. He halted a few feet away, his eyes brimming with tears. I don't know how to express it," he choked, his voice thick with emotion. You saved everything, Lily Mae. Both of you." Lily Mae smiled, her heart overflowing. She clasped her grandfather's hand and gestured towards Blaze. "We did it together, Grandpa," she murmured. "We did it together." Bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, a tangible bond was clear to all, a connection that had not only salvaged the farm, but had also rekindled hope in a community teetering on the brink of despair.